Well, howdy ho, y'all. Yo, guardsman, I'm here. I got a good one for you today. So, y'all heard about that new air law coming out in Southern Carolina, and well, warning from a Californian, from a fella who grew up in California and dealt with all that law crap here and grew up in it. If it's a legislative bill towards any kind of gun control or any kind of gun effort or anything that does not simply state the right of the people shall not be infringed, you should not be looking at that as a boon. And I'm about to tell you why. See, here in California, back in the 90s and whatnot, folks were just horrified by the amount of gang violence, Crips and Bloods, Norteños and Sureños, the white boys versus everyone, they were horrified by the violence. And so they were quick to jump on something that would make that violence go away. They did not realize that the violence was a byproduct of becoming soft, of not wanting to see that kind of violence, not wanting to be the activator of that violence, not being the person to simply stand up and stop the violence with violence of their own, created for us a problem. And that was that Californians were willing to just go with the punches, take it and go, take it and roll. So the CCW was not appropriately fought when we still had a vote. And, y'all will say, well, California, you guys haven't had a vote for years. I know. Hell, I've watched it go downhill. But when it comes down to it, one of the things they did vote for was the CCW. And it was one of the turning points. It was part of the failing of California. And when I say the failing of California, I want y'all to understand out there in Southern Carolina, y'all got something that we can't have ever again. And that is the ability to stop this problem before it becomes one. Now, I'm going to point out to you, a lot of folks would think, oh, well, it's a CCW. People already have CCWs in South Carolina. This just makes it so that your CCW allows you to open carry. No, it makes it so that if anybody wants to open carry, they have to have a CCW. This is not what you think it is. This is what I'm talking about. Right now, y'all can walk down the street, a pistol on your side. As long as it's visible, it's constitutionally allowed. This legislature would take that ability away from you and make you have to go and get a CCW. I don't care if it doesn't cost you a dime. It's going to cost you a lot in time. And y'all don't see this because you weren't the brunt of it back in the 90s, and that's fine. All right? Y'all ain't had to live through this. So take it from somebody who has. This is going to fuck you in the ass. Plain and simple. And if you think I'm lying, go ahead, go through with it and watch it totally destroy your state. Because when you lose your guns, you lose your edge. Trust in me now and believe me later. Or distrust me now and deal with it later. Y'all don't understand. Here in California, we went through the exact same thing. And when I say the exact same thing, I mean literally down the fucking line. It started out as California was an open carry state. Then it became California was a castle doctrine and CCW state because everybody just jumped on that bandwagon and didn't realize what it meant. Castle doctrine is that you have a right to defend yourself in your home. That does not mean that it's only preclusive to your home, but that's what the courts ran with. So it's utter bullshit in my opinion, and it's wrong and it's anti-constitutional. What's furthermore is that this CCW law is anti-constitutional. See, in California, we didn't have to pay for it at first. Matter of fact, I think it was like, when they first started it, it was $150, and then they dropped that down to about like $10 to go get your CCW for about 2, 3, 4 years. It was like $10. Go get your CCW. Then it shot up to $1,500. In the span of a year, it shot up to $1,500 to go get your CCW. Now you can't carry a gun in the state of California without a CCW. You cannot utilize that gun in your own self-defense unless you are on your property. And here's the worst part of it all. This extends to everybody. Military, police, militia, average Joe Schmo with his kids. Extends to everybody. Then they started putting in all these laws. All these extra new laws. Get magazine bans, stock crap, and freaking furnishings, and semi-auto, auto, pre-ban, post-ban, compliant, non-compliant, all this crap stemmed from one little confuckery. Concealed carry. You shouldn't need legislature to be allowing you to conceal on your person a weapon. You are an American fucking citizen. Get up, grow up, reach down there and grab a pair. Because it's bullshit and you know it. You want to see something that's really fucking reality here? While I'm on private property, I can carry this. It's a fucking air gun. While on private property, you can carry your firearms. Once you step off that private property in the state of California, if you are armed, you are a combatant. And this all stems from that bullshit. That bullshit of, oh, it's just to get you to get your CCW and get your training. That's all. Really? So when I moved to South Carolina, because that's in the works. That's like literally started being put in the works that fucking, 6 months ago. Started working on moving towards South Carolina. Here's my big rub with all that. I don't want to move from California to California, trading one coast for the opposite. That's not funny. That's bullshit and you know it. I'm going to be very clear right now. This is something that irritates the shit out of me, and it's irritated me ever since I was a little kid. Either A, 2A, or B, no 2A. Plain and fucking simple. No in-betweensies, no middle ground with that. It says, shall not be infringed. Any law, any legislation that says gun is an infringement. Whether or not it's good or bad, let me point something out to you. If it says that you can shoot a gun legally in the United States, as long as it's at a target, well, now you've taken away every other opportunity. If you're not shooting at a target, but say you're shooting at the dirt, now you've done something illegal. And you don't even know it. That's my point. Canada went through that bullshit. You can't even shoot anything except for a target or for an animal while in the course of hunting. Literally the two things you can legally shoot at in Canada. You can't even defend yourself. South Carolina, I'm looking at you like, motherfuckers, you need to figure this shit out. Because the reality is that any legislation, doesn't matter how benign it seems to be or appears to be, is an attempt to take away your Second Amendment. And I'm saying this to y'all because here in California, we ain't got that anymore. We've got a bunch of assholes in government that don't know their fucking asshole from a fucking hole in the ground and are more than happy to stick their head in either. And this is what I'm talking about. In the state of California, you can't even walk down the street with a rifle. Unloaded, unstamped, all that shit, taken care of, flagged and all that fun shit. You cannot walk down the street with it. Do you know why? Because you are intimidating the public. That's literally what the fucking charge is. Intimidation of public. It's unlawful to charge somebody with such for the simple carrying of a firearm or an air gun. But that is the charge they levy at you, which is absolute bullshit. It is anti-constitutional, and it's actually treasonous in the United States. However, the state of California pulls that shit all fucking time. They charge my ass with possession because they couldn't get me on fucking, an attempted murder because I wasn't there to try and kill somebody. They busted my ass on possession of a firearm. This is what I'm talking about. Possession is the intent of the Second Amendment. I did nothing illegal. I did nothing unlawful. And I got my ass reamed for it. And y'all in Southern Carolina are gonna end up getting the fucking worst ass fucking because y'all got more guns than God. And I'm saying that because while there is a lot of Bible thumpers out there, there's some folks that got guns that ain't exactly biblical. So, y'all got more guns than God. Out here in California, we got more God than guns. Which is a fucking feat because most people out here are fucking atheist. Make you think, won't it? This is something y'all need to really be paying attention to. If it says, gun control legislation or any kind of Pro 2A legislation, read that shit from top to bottom in fine print and backwards, motherfucker. Understand it. And when I say understand it, I mean every last fucking word and how it plugs in. Because if you don't, you're gonna fuck yourself in the end. Guess what? California's already been through it. Why do you think I can't have a gun? It sure the fuck ain't because I'm some crazy motherfucker. If I were crazy, I'd be in a loony bin. Let's be clear. California actually does have crazy homes. They have funny farms. Been to several of them, actually, because Californians think that if you have a right side leaning perspective, that's crazy. Sorry, but I'm slightly right-leaning, independent. I see the forest in spite of the trees. And I see what's happening here. And trust in me now and believe me later. If y'all don't stand up and say something, do something, you're going to make me mad and you're going to only have yourselves to blame. It takes a fucking sack. And a lot of it. But you know what? I wish my countrymen here in state of California, fucking tastes nasty just saying California. My comrades, I mean, you gotta understand, I hate this fucking state. Not specifically because of the people, but because of the laws. There is not a law in this state that makes absolutely perfect sense. There is always a question behind every single law. Why? Why would you? How does that help? Every single fucking law that's proposed has been opposed. And yet it's law. How is that possible? Every law in the past 25 years has been a direct infringement or near infringement of a constitutional amendment. Yeah, a United States Constitution amendment at that. What, is California its own fucking country? Because if I remember correctly, part of the succession, part of the succession of a state was to sign contract that all of the United States Constitution must be adhered to. It's literally California's Fourth Amendment. All persons shall have the right to keep and bear arms for the defense of themselves, their property, and their country. That's literally in the California Constitution. And yet, even though it says all citizens in California, it does not say only when you feel like it. It says all citizens in California. Still, we have this CCW. See, and that's what bothers me, is that, when it comes down to it, you're not going to think that a CCW is important or that training is important unless you go through a few instances of fucking up. You have to have the chance to do something stupid in order to understand why it's intelligent, why it's beneficial to learn. Otherwise, it's like, fuck it, it's not beneficial to me. What's the reason for learning? I mean, this is what children always fucking say in school. What is this going to teach me that I'm going to use later on in life? Well, I use math all the time. I read quite a bit. Every single fucking day. I use chemistry all the time. I sew quite a bit. I use geometry all the time. But that doesn't mean that when I was a kid, I thought that it was a good idea to learn all of that. I just learned it. And then I realized I needed it. See, the problem that our society has is that they think that every child is going to think, well, I might as well learn it now just in case I need it. They're not going to be all that intelligent. It's sometimes you got to do something stupid, heaven forbid you shoot yourself in the fucking leg, to learn that it's important to try and utilize trigger discipline. And, this is my point. Point of guns, safe. You get my point. To learn, to actually have the want to learn. Sometimes some people need stupid shit to happen to them. I don't like it, I'm not happy about it, but that does not mean that I have a right to take that away from them. And that's plain and simple. All right? If you're going to take something away from somebody simply because they didn't learn like you did, then who's more to blame for their stupidity, them or you? See, this is one of those things. I gotta tell you. I used to ride my quad at top speed. I don't anymore. I used to ride it without a helmet. I don't anymore. That took me making a mistake where I nearly killed myself, and I learned. The same rule applies. If you cannot make a mistake because the law says you can't make a mistake, you're not going to learn. That means that they take every opportunity that you had away from you without you ever having the opportunity. It doesn't take much to do this, much to have this happen, all right? It really doesn't. First, it's CCW or the Baker Act or some bullshit like that. Then, several years down the road, when you finally become an adult and you recognize all these things and you understand truth and reason and logic and common sense, your hands are fucking tied. Because as a child, you fucked up in order to learn. But because it was illegal for you to fuck up, you see how this works? Do you see the progression I'm getting at? This is why, a little bit of Christian forgiveness is a good thing. Imagine for a second, you've lost everything in your life. All that you have is your life and a gun. And then a police officer says you can't have that gun because you did not go through this training course. So I'm going to take that gun from you until you finish that training course. So now you're disarmed. All you've got is your life. Because you're a lawful citizen, right? You're a law-abiding legal man, right? So they've taken it all away from you. Now you can't even defend yourself. Because, you're all right. You could box a little bit, great. But there's that rule, for every big guy out there, there's a bigger one. And, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. There's that too. But, either or doesn't matter. Because you don't know how to fight. That gun was your fight. Well, guess what, bruh? You're fucked. It's that simple. It's literally so simple that I can do it with fucking street logic. It's so simple, I don't need a physics degree. I don't need math. I don't need science. I can tell you exactly how it's going to happen with just simple logic. Simple logic. Street logic, man. That's what I'm talking about here. Y'all don't understand that this is going to fucking destroy what you have. And it's all due to the fact that it's worded in a way or sold to you in a way that sounds good. See, these are the problems. The state of California's already been through this. You gold plate shit. It's still shit. It's just got some gold on it. Alright? You know, Cheetos ain't nothing but air and a little bit of cheese powder. And if you really want to go for the gusto, buy a block of cheese, right? Well, here's the thing. They are handing you cheese crisps and telling you that it's a block of cheese. That's what's happening here. You know, you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to want a glass of milk, right? This little tiny fucking thing is that inch that I say that they will take a mile from. Just an inch. And mind you, CCW, a lot of folks say, oh, well, you'd want to carry concealed anyways because that way, you know, you are the final say, the effective deterrent towards crime. And I would counter with, you don't need a permit for that. And if you need a permit for that, then you might as well just go ahead and say, I give up. I'm not an American anymore. I'm a Brit. In America, we don't ask for permission. We fucking ask for forgiveness. That's the simple fact of the matter. We don't ask you for permission, motherfuckers. And if you're gonna go and fuck us over, well, guess what? We ain't asking your forgiveness neither. Because you hold no sway. It's that simple. Alright? You either take the stance of absolutely not 1 inch more. Or you end up like California. I mean, I took the stance of not 1 inch more, but way too fucking late. This is why I'm telling y'all. This is why I'm putting so much emphasis on this. Those of you who have these sanctuary states or whatever, do not think that it is a boon. You are losing. No legislation which states the words gun and must in the same fucking paragraph is legislation you should let pass. If those two words align in any kind of legislation, nope. Not happening. I do not approve. And I do not acquiesce. Here in the, here I stand, 'tis a line in the sand, turned black by the blood of my brothers. And everywhere you go, a tale you will sow, of a man who stood to the end. Plain and simple. You either stand or you fall. And here's the reality. Here's what really pisses me off about all this. I got some family and some friends over there in South Carolina. All right? One family member sent me, after telling me, oh, well, this is a good thing. We're going to all be all right. And, this is good. This is awesome. This is legislation we want. After sending me all that and saying, whatever, if it's not legislation we want, I'm not even going to bother. Then handed me something that says you got to stand for something or you fall for anything. I'm like, son, do you understand how hypocritical that is? Let's be clear. That, it's one thing for you to take this stance of, heaven forbid you take this stance of, I don't have a gun, so it doesn't affect me. It's a total fucking different story when you are already a gun owner. Own more guns than God's grease. And think that CCW is a good thing. And when I say CCW, that's Concealed Carry Weapons Permit. That's not actually concealing and carrying. Okay? The actual action of concealing and carrying, that's called concealed carry. That's not called CCW. CCW is Concealed Carry Weapons Permit. Alright? If I'm walking around with this thing in a freaking out in the wilds or whatever, I have to have a hunting license. If I'm walking around with that thing in the freaking city, I have to have a CCW in the state of California for a fucking air gun. So let me ask you again. What on God's green earth makes it okay to have to force people who don't, who have gone through this and learned the hard way or learned from their parents how to carry themselves and operate and own a gun and carry the gun and utilize it correctly and deploy it when necessary and not deploy it otherwise. Real firearms training, just not certified firearms training. This is what they're doing, people. They are taking away from the American people who are doing things on a budget. That's literally what this is. You can't teach your own kids to fucking carry a gun no more. No. We can't let you do that. Why? Because you have to go to this special class in order to get this CCW. You know that costs money, right? Oh, but the permit itself is free. But if you go to the classes now, that's what costs you. It's about $800 a lesson. And if you think I'm lying, son, tell you what, you go and you try out with freaking. And when I say a lesson, that means a 1 month long course. That is one lesson. Don't think that you go into a gun range one day, okay, now you're certified. That's bullshit, son. When you are going to get training for a firearm, one lesson takes as long as 3 fucking weeks in order for them to be certain that you've gotten it. That's what I'm talking about. One class is probably like $150, $200. One lesson